Bronco Nation, you need to take a moment. You need to take a moment to catalog this in your minds. You need to remember the key moments. You need to think back to the emotions of that last drive for Boise State when they took 8 minutes and 7 seconds off the clock to kneel the ball down and win the game. To think back to when Ashton Jeanty broke not one, not two, 3, 4 tackles to get down to the 1-yard line to then punch it in for the go-ahead score. To remember the emotions of when Maddox Madsen rolled out on a 4th and 2 and threw across his body to Matt Lauder in the back of the end zone for a perfectly called touchdown pass. The feelings when Andrew Simpson picked off and moved the ball down inside the 6 for Boise State to then go ahead for the score. You need to remember these moments, Bronco Nation, because this is going to be a game that goes down in the annals of Boise State history. This was a historic win for Boise State, and Boise walks away from Vegas with a win for the second time in 2 years, a repeat of the Mountain West Championship game, and a game that could be a prequel to the Mountain West Championship game this year. Boise State wins 29-24. What a game. We are going to go through this matchup. We're going to review it. We're going to look at the offense, the defense, the special teams, the 3 keys to the games that I had for Boise State, grade each of those areas, and talk about individual performances. But before we do, I do have to shout out the winner for the score prediction challenge this week. I assume this has got to be a relative. I am so happy that this is the person who won it this week, because it's going to be somebody we're going to talk about when we get to the defense. But Ahmad Hassanin, I am assuming a relative of his, Hassanin Mahdi 540. That is the correct score prediction this week. I mean, in a game that I think a lot of people expected could potentially be close, but I don't think anyone expected this outcome exactly. He almost nailed it. 28-24. 1 point off on the score prediction. So fantastic job on the score prediction there. Thank you everybody for participating as always on those. There was a lot of really good ones out there, and the more people that participate, the closer that those score predictions get just by the sheer number of predictions. But this was a good one. So congratulations, and if you are related to Ahmed, congratulations to him, and please convey that to us, from us to him. All right, so getting into looking at the offense for Boise State. Before we talk about kind of going through these drives here, I want to talk about a couple of key players. And first and foremost, Maddox Madsen. What a game for him. 18 of 33, 209 yards and a touchdown. But he also had 3 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown, long of 49. And he was 2 of 2 on 4th downs. Over the last 2 games, Maddox Madsen is 5 for 5 on 4th down conversions and 2 touchdowns in his last 2 performances for Boise State. When he is needed most, he comes up big, and we saw that in this game. Maddox Madsen, first drive, Ashton Jeanty bottled up. Doesn't matter. He's going to break away for a 49-yard. I mean, he looked like Mateer out there running the ball. 49 yards inside of the red zone. Boise State would come away from that one with a field goal. And what I was most impressed by, not that every single time when Ashton Jeanty was bottled up, Maddox Madsen was able to beat UNLV through the air. That's just not going to happen every time that you stop the best player on the team, that the offense is just automatically going to be able to shift and then go to something else, especially when your offense this designed. But again, when it mattered most, Boise State found a way, and Maddox Madsen is a huge reason, the most important reason to why Boise State won this game. Not only did he have great, incredible individual moments like that one, but in the drive number 5, after Ashton Jeanty has been hurt, so he comes back into the game because he has to. Boise State's next 2 running backs are already dealing with injuries right now. Ashton Jeanty's got to play. He is hurt, clearly a bad, I'm not going to say bad injury, but looked very painful, a arm shiver going to the ground, and you know how important his stiff arm is to him in his game. Not the same running back the rest of the matchup, which makes the statistical performance that he had overall so much more impressive. We'll talk about that here in a second. But in that drive number 5, after Maddox Madsen goes out, after Ashton Jeanty goes out, Maddox Matson takes over in drive number 5. It's now on him. It now truly is on him to beat UNLV, and he does. Austin Bolt, huge catch on a deflected pass. Not a great throw from Maddox Matson on that one. I'm not saying it was a perfect performance. He definitely had some off moments. That one there, deflected pass, should have been a pick by Woodard. Wasn't. Austin Bolt, incredible eye discipline to find that ball and to hold onto it. Runs it downfield for a long on that one of 28. And then on 4th and 1, you could hand the ball off to Ashton, but again, he's not doing 100% right now. Instead, Boise State on a rollout pass from Maddox Matson, where Ashton is an option to throw to, but he's covered up. Maddox Matson looks to the second level, the harder pass, throws a perfect ball on 4th and 1 to Matt Lauder for the reception. And then on the run, it's supposed to be a screen pass to Ashton Jeanty. It's covered up. Maddox Matson runs the ball in for the touchdown for Boise State. And then drive number 6, again, Ashton Jeanty bottled up. He should have had a touchdown. A holding call wipes out his touchdown. Then he's bottled up after that. Maddox Matson throws a perfect ball to Cam Camper, who with great effort is able to break a couple of tackles and get to the 2. And then on 4th and 2, again, instead of handing the ball off to Ashton Jeanty, stacked box, Maddox Matson rolls out and throws that. Again, going away right to left, throws a perfect throw to Matt Lauder on the back of the end zone for a touchdown. This was Maddox Matson's best game. Statistically, was it his best game? No. There was also a lot of drops in there. You hear me say that on a lot of every video. That's true. There's been a lot of drops by wide receivers. Lauder had an incredible game, but he also had a couple of key drops. 2 drops on screen passes that should have been easier. Now, could Maddox Matson take a little heat off those screen passes? Yeah, he definitely could, but the passes were right to Lauder. Should be a catch. So a couple of dropped passes there early on some of those drives that were stopped by UNLV when Ashton Jeanty was bottled up. Big reason because of that. Drive number 2, drive number 3 were because of dropped passes there. Drive number 2, Lauder and Bates both dropped a pass. Drive number 3, Penry dropped a pass on 3rd down. So there should have been a greater statistical performance here and some more completed drives overall for Boise State, if not for a couple of drops. Max Benson had a couple of bad throws for sure, but also quite a few drops. However, Maddox Matson overall in this game and his impact on this game and his decision making in this game, which of course has been such a huge element of him, that decision to see that the screen is bottled up and to have not just the decision making but the ability. A lot of people, they'll say, okay, sure, he has the decision making, but what they don't realize is he also has the ability. He has that ability to throw those perfect balls when Boise State needs it most. Again, to set up that 4th and 1, to make that decision, to run with it, and then have that sneaky speed. I mean, Maddox Matson is not going to be your scrambling quarterback out there. He's not going to be Taylon Green, but he has shown time and time again that if you do not account for his legs, he can hurt you with them, as we saw that today. First half for Maddox Matson, absolutely incredible performance. Second half, even with the injury to Ashton Jeanty, he came in big on the second half. On that final drive for Boise State, he was the key factor to Boise State being able to run off the clock and win this game. Ashton Jeanty, with an injury, 33 carries for 128 yards, 3.9 yard average, a touchdown, a long of 16, and that's the difference maker. UNLV, incredible job of stopping Ashton Jeanty from the long breakaway runs. He had a couple of opportunities. He was so very close to breaking a couple, including one that was not UNLV. I believe on one of those plays, I believe that it was one of the earlier drives for Ashton Jeanty. However, Ashton Jeanty runs it up the middle, and he is open. I mean, there's nobody around him. The secondary is struggling to get back. He has a full head of steam. That would have been a potential to have a 70-plus yard long touchdown run. I mean, there was a potential right there. He could break it, and he trips. Turf got him. Down he goes. So it wasn't all UNLV. Of course, the injury hindering him earlier on, that trip there. But UNLV overall, credit to them, incredible job of coming out and attempting to stop Ashton Jeanty. And even on a game where they stopped Ashton Jeanty, he still averaged almost 4 yards per carry, had over 120 yards rushing, a touchdown, 3 receptions for 11 yards. So almost 140 total yards of offense on a game that they stopped Ashton Jeanty with an injury. That should show you just how incredible this running back is for Boise State. But again, the biggest drive of the night, when Boise State needed him the most, when he has been beat up, when he has been called on to already run the ball for 25 plus times on a night that he is dealing with an injury, he is able to come up big for Boise State and win this game and go through that last drive and take off 8 minutes and 7 seconds. It wasn't just him. Tyler Crow had some great performances on that drive as well. Again, Ashton Jenney clearly banged up, having to come out from play to play. Tyler Crow, meaningful snaps, great run, a good reception for about 4 yards, and being able to maintain this drive. And Boise State's able to push through and finish it out. But a big reason for Boise State's performance in this one, because the running game was somewhat stopped, was Maddox Madsen and these receivers and this tight ends. The passing game for Boise State had more yards. This is one of the first times this season that Boise State has had significantly more yards offensively in the passing game. 209 yards passing compared to 185 yards rushing, 394 yards total offense for Boise State in this game. And again, it's because the passing game was able to step up. No interceptions. I mean, even talking about like near picks, there really wasn't any near picks either. This was a game where there really wasn't any plays you can look back on and say that was a really bad decision right there. Overall, again, not that every pass was perfect. There were a couple of throws that were just missed opportunities there. There was a touchdown to Prince Strachan on a corner route in the back of the end zone that he was wide open on. Maddox Madsen should have thrown that ball better, and that should have been a touchdown. So again, not a perfect performance, but the fact that Boise State Maddox Madsen is able to overcome those inconsistencies at times throughout this game to put together the performance that we saw. And I say inconsistencies, it really was only a few real kind of questionable, poor throws overall for Maddox Madsen to put those behind him and to have the big game moment, which we needed out of him. I mean, Maddox Madsen could have been shut down in this matchup. It was right there for UNLV. They'd stopped Ashton Jenney. You hold him to 128 yards rushing and only 1 touchdown. This should be a win. Instead, Boise State's walking away with 29 to 24 point win. Big reason the defense, we'll talk about that here in a second, but even a bigger reason offensively is because these wide receivers, Bolt, Strachan, Louder, Camper, Wagner, Bates, Crow, Caples, everybody got involved in the mix. The ball was spread around evenly. The receivers were making huge plays, and Boise State was able to pull out a win in this one because the passing game finally stepped up in a way that won the game for Boise State. Looking at some of these wide receivers and tight ends here before we kind of summarize real quick on the offensive performance overall. Bolt, 2 receptions for 43 yards, long of 28. Strachan, 2 receptions for 43 yards, long of 37. Again, was open for a touchdown, just missed on that one. Louder, couple of drops, but he was the difference maker in this one. More than made up for those moments. Just like Maddox Madsen makes up for his moments, Louder made up for his moments in this one. Yeah, a couple of drops, but he didn't drop it when it mattered most. Again, 4th and 2, touchdown, and then again on a 4th and 1, making that grab to set up the first down. An incredible diving grab to go get the ball. Cam Camper, 3 for 36. Louder finishing the day with 4 for 38, long of 13 and a touchdown. Wagner on a ball he was open. That probably should have been a touchdown. A little bit of an overthrow. Wagner goes a big, again, not the primary tight end in this Boise State offense, but he has had some big moments this season, and not just when the backups have been in. Goes up big, raises up those big hands of his, and gets that catch for 22 yards to set up Boise State in the red zone. And then Bates, Crow, and Caples all contributing as well. Bates had another nice little run on the end around to kind of flip it forward run for him, 11 yards right there. So Boise State overall in this game, this was a must win, obviously, for Boise State. And at times, the game was in the balance. There were some drives there that Boise State just failed to put it together. You know, drive number 2, drive number 3, bottling up Jenney, some missed opportunities in the passing game. But after drive number 4, which is the point where play action to Bolt sets up the Jenney run, but then Boise State gets inside of the 50. They have to settle for a field goal on that one. Just there's some tough coverage. But after drive number 4, Boise State had back-to-back touchdown drives because of primarily Maddox Madsen. And then leading into the second half, Boise State came out big again. First drive for Boise State, again, ends up in a field goal because of missed opportunity there to Strachan. But drive number 4, Boise State gets it done for a touchdown on a tough run from Ashton Jenney 2 first downs on back-to-back, two runs from Ashton lead to first downs, a throw to Campers for 19 yards, and a penalty sets up another big play. Wagner has the huge catch. So again, that was a nice balanced play because you saw Ashton and the passing game. And then finally, Ashton finishing off, breaking 5 tackles to get to the 1-yard line. And then in a play that he could have been stopped in the backfield there. He definitely could have been stopped in the backfield on that 1-yard run, and he showed the determination to go ahead and score and put Boise State ahead for the final time. This was a performance from Boise State offense that they were able to overcome adversity. That has been a key this season, to overcome the down moments, and this game hung in the balance all the way to the end, and Boise State was able to come away with the win because they didn't let drives that stalled their momentum take away their ability to come back in and go out and score. Boise State could have let momentum slip away from them to the defense, but you never really felt like offensively for Boise State, they were out of it in this one. Some missed opportunities. They had 4 or 5 drives there where they ended up having to punt. The Boise State ending up having to punt 4 times in this game, having to settle for some field goals. But at no point did Boise State let setbacks offensively or opportunities given up on defense, scores from UNLV to allow them to lose momentum. You always felt like Boise State, especially at least after drive number 4 of the first half, that they had control of this game and the offense was going to be able to come out and do what they needed to. And we saw it on that final drive. 8 minutes left. That's a lot of time. They go 3 and out there, and they almost did. They really did. They almost went 3 and out, but Maddox Madsen heads up play, avoids a sack, throws the ball up to a receiver, forces the referees to call a holding penalty on the defense, extends that drive, and then Ashton Jeanty and Tyler Crow finish it out for Boise State all the way. And again, 8 minutes left, plenty of time, 2-minute warning, and a timeout for UNLV. They could have done a lot of things with that, and Boise State didn't need to because they showed that they are a championship-level team that when the game is on the line, they're going to go out and win it, and they learned a lot about themselves in this matchup. So offensive performance overall wasn't pretty at times, and I'm not saying it was a perfect performance at all. I'm not saying that. Definitely was not in the A category, but I'm going to give this a solid B+ because this offense did what it needed to go out and win, and in the big moments, those 4th downs, those short close to the red zone, the need to go ahead with the score, Ashton Jeanty, Maddox Madsen, this offense together were able to go ahead and do what they needed to win. So B+ overall performance for the offense. Moving on to the defense, this was a strong defensive performance. I know watching this, seeing the long breakaway runs from, Hodge, Malik Williams, seeing the 100+ yards rushing from Hodge, seeing the 179 yards passing, you might think that this wasn't that great a defensive performance overall, but it was. This was a very strong defensive performance for Boise State in this matchup. They had some breaks, but this is a bend but don't break defense. Now, typically the bend but don't break means that they give up an open play. They're just out of position and they allow that play, and then they're able to come back in the next one and get the sack or whatever. And we did see them doing that on the back end with the sacks. But the biggest issue, the reason this game was as close as it was defensively for Boise State at times, was because of missed tackles. So before I talk about some positives, I do want to talk about the negatives. Every video I like to talk about the negatives and the positives. Fair analysis overall. Boise State had at least 8 missed tackles where the defender was either in position and unable to make the tackle, or had the defender in their arms hitting the defender, and they were able to break away for a key first so many times on Williams. And I know he's an incredible athlete. I'm not, I think that you would expect a few broken tackles, but there were more than just a few broken tackles on Hodge. Several times he was able to convert 3rd and longs, convert that first down that then led to the score. I mean, yeah, giving up a 50+ yard touchdown isn't great, but the reason that they were in that situation is because on 3rd and 9, Williams broke a missed tackle to go ahead and get the first down, and then threw a 34-yard, sorry, not 50+, but 34-yard touchdown. Boise State so many times missed tackles in this game, such a huge key. However, they made up for it. The bend but don't break mentality that I've seen in the other games for Boise State is that they maybe have a bad play where the defense isn't necessarily in the right formation to go out and get the stop, or they allow a big pass and they make the tackle. Boise State's been a really good tackling team all season. This game, they struggled with tackling at times. However, they made up for it with 6 sacks and 9 tackles for loss in a game that, again, Hodge ran for over 100 yards, which is should show you with 6 sacks how impressive he was rushing in this game. Take away the 6 sacks, he's well over 130, 150 plus yards rushing. But Boise State in this game, 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and a huge part of that was because of this Boise State secondary. This Boise State secondary impressed me in this game. The biggest issue I had with this defense wasn't the secondary performance. I thought they were locked down for a large portion of this game. Did they give up a couple big plays? Yeah, they gave up a long pass there early on, 50-yard pass. I thought Tubner was actually in pretty good coverage, just kind of one of those perfect pass situations. Deep coverage, could it have been better? Probably, but again, it was good coverage, I thought, from Tubner overall. Just put it on the sideline ahead of his receiver, only place that his guy could go out and make the catch, and he was able to do it. So yeah, they had a couple of big plays, 50-yard pass here, wide open, 30-yard touchdown, first touchdown for UNLV, just a broken play defensively for Boise State. Great offensive play, honestly. Got the defensive eyes looking in all the wrong directions. They're wide open tight end running across the left side, just completely uncovered, nobody near him. I think anybody watching this video could have thrown that touchdown pass. That's how open the tight end was on that throw. So yeah, there were some broken moments, but overall, this Boise State defense and specifically this Boise State secondary was very, very impressive. They were great at applying pressure. 3.5 of those sacks came from the secondary players, but again, only 179 yards passing against a wide receiver who is very, very capable with his arm. This is a wide receiver for UNLV who only in 3 games. So he played 4 games overall. I don't have those statistics because I did the preview for the video before the Oregon State. So just referring to his 3-game stats. But coming into this game, just on 3 games, he had 642 yards passing, 77% completion percentage, and 9 touchdowns. And Boise State held him to 179 yards passing, and most of those yards came on 2 or 3 broken plays. That touchdown, that long 37-yard touchdown pass, just a kind of broken coverage, that 20-ish, 15, 20, however long that was, touchdown pass and the corner, and then one good 50-yard pass that set them up to go ahead with that score. But really, if you take away those 3 plays overall, there was not a lot of opportunities for Hodge to get the ball off, a large part because of this pressure, but also because of the coverage. There were times where he had 3-4 seconds to survey the field, and there was nowhere to go. So even though statistically, Boise did give up opportunities, they did give up plays, you were going to do that against a very dangerous and explosive UNLV offense that had been averaging, with Hodge back there, 40, I think, plus points per game. I'd have to look up the exact statistic there. But that's what I was seeing prior to this one. This was a very explosive, very offensive heavy point scoring offense, and defensively a big part of the reason they held them 24 was because of a secondary that stepped up in a way that I don't think a lot of people expected them to. And I think that shows if this secondary is starting to put itself together here on the back half of the season. I think we've seen improvements out of them. That is going to make Boise State a very, very dangerous team going forward because they're already great at applying the pressure. The front 7 we've had no questions about, but this Boise State secondary can really start to step up like they did in this game going forward. This could be a Boise State team that is maybe even favored potentially in a playoff game. This is a Boise State offense that is very, very strong, but a Boise State defense that if they can put that secondary together, really that one missing piece, the strength of those two together could be one of the greatest Boise State teams that we've ever seen. I know that's a lot to say with the Boise State teams we've seen in the past, and I know that there have been greater individual combined players and across positions, but when you look at a Boise State team that is so strong in the special teams and those key players in the punting and kicking, so strong offensively with Ashton Genty in this offensive line, but a passing game that's now stepping up to be a key player and an equal player even with the offense, and then a Boise State defense that is one of the greatest blitzing Boise State defenses we've ever seen, and then you also add that Boise State secondary. I mean, they make a case for being one of those historic programs for the Boise State teams of the past that we look back on and go, wow, that's one that stands out. So this Boise State defense overall, really strong performance, some great individual performances. Alexander Tubner, a career game, 14 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. He was all over the field. He, again, had some huge moments in this one, even just there on that first drive. Benesfield stops, gets a good pass defended there, and then Tubner goes in and gets a sack on 3rd and goal. third and goal. They were set up to go ahead with a score. That would have been a huge momentum boost. Boise State wins this game by only 5 points. So you talk about the difference making there as far as scoring. But third and goal, Alexander Tubner comes up with a sack on a running back that they'd allowed to run. They'd broken through against the nickel there. Not Shea Oladipo, it was Rodney Robinson at that point. They had the defense, they had the coverage. Rodney Robinson was right there. Haj runs right by him, is able to go down and get a big pickup all the way down to inside of the 5. But then Tubner comes up with a huge tackle and forces that field goal. He was all over the field, like I said, those 14 tackles. But the player, Tubner, incredible game. But the player for me that I thought had one of the biggest impacts in this one, and he was one of my key players for this game, was Shea Oladipo. Wow, what a performance out of Shea in this one. 6 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1.5 tackles for loss. He had a massive impact, not just on defense, also on special teams. There was a point there in that first kick return for the UNLV that they were angling for the edge, they were starting to pick up speed. If they get past Oladipo there, potential to turn that up for 50 plus, maybe a touchdown. They have done that before. This was a very dangerous kick return, and Shea doesn't make the tackle, but he slows the returner down, and the next man's able to go up and get the tackle. And then the very next play, Oladipo saves a touchdown, a broken play on defense, and he tracks down from his nickel position, comes back and forces the defender out of bounds on a drive that would end up being on that drive number 1 there, that would end in a touchdown, but it would force UNLV to continue to expel that clock, and it wouldn't just end right off the bat. So Shea Oladipo, incredible performance for him in this matchup. Some key moments, some key stops on Haj. He's continued to impress from his nickel position. And then Simpson, 5 tackles, 0.5 tackles for loss, but the interception, almost a pick six, goes to hurdle, runs into one of his own guys, just off balance a little bit, falls down. Boise State able to put it in. Looked like they might not for a moment, but they were able to put that in for a touchdown again because of Maddox Madsen and company. But Simpson, that interception for Boise State, there were a lot of opportunities. There were a lot of deflections, near picks, especially in that first half where Boise State was that close to getting. I think Myron McCoy, I think, had his hands on one. I think Zion Washington had his hands on one. Like there were the secondary continues to come this close to picking off the ball. We saw that versus Hawaii. Tons of at least 2 deflected passes that were almost picked. But Andrew Simpson steps up with a difference maker. Again, Boise State goes ahead, scores a touchdown in that game, in a game that was won by 5 points. Huge momentum swing right before half. Boise State's able to come into the second half with that edge. That was massive to put a little bit of breathing room, make this game a little bit more comfortable. Not comfortable at any point. This game was never comfortable, but just a little bit. I think it was 2-score possession there for Boise State coming into the second half. So huge performances overall. Jalen Morgan, he had a massive game again. He has stepped up in such a big way across from Hassanin. Hassanin draws so much of a focus. He had a big game, 0.5 sacks. Maybe not statistically performance-wise as far as jumping out on the stats sheet, but if you watch that game, Hassanin is drawing those double teams. Boise State's getting through on 4-man blitzes because Hassanin is drawing so much of a pressure. He's forcing the quarterback out into those secondary sacks. So Hassanin, a huge performance for him. But statistically, JVM, incredible game for him again, 1.5 sacks. He was big, stopping and forcing field goals as well. In fact, almost solely on drive number 3, one that saw them get down a 50-yard pass, gets them down inside of the red zone. He has 2 back-to-back huge plays. He stiffs out a fake throw. They try to throw the pass back, a trick play back to Haj Williams to maybe go ahead and score. And JVM sees it, comes back, makes it a little bit of a tougher catch. I believe deflects the ball a little bit, incomplete pass. And then on the very next play, goes out and gets a sack on 3rd down to force a field goal that was then missed because of the yardage lost. And so incredible game by JVM. Incredible game overall as Boise State defense. Rodney Robinson, I know I mentioned he had that missed opportunity, but he came up big as well. 3 tackles and a sack, and would have had another sack accredited, forcing a big intentional grounding there, which set up a 3rd and 15. So overall for Boise State defensively in this one, when you look at some of the moments they gave up, I know it can feel like the game was getting away from them a little bit defensively, but honestly, drive-wise for Boise State, drives that I would say were down performances where they either allowed a touchdown or just were not able to recover appropriately, you really only have 3 bad drives. Overall, Boise State had 7 really strong drives where maybe they did bend a little bit, but they did not break, and they were able to come up with that big play overall. And so 7 out of 10 defensive drives that I'd say were strong performances, either beginning to end or at least coming up big when it mattered most. This is going to be a solid A performance overall for the defense. So moving on to special teams before we conclude here with the 3 keys to the game. Boise State special teams here. Kicking, Jonah Dalmez, again, another huge game. He had 3 field goals, 3 of 3, 9 points. Again, Boise State wins this game by 5. There were so many important moments where this was a total team win overall. You talk about Simpson's INT there to set up a touchdown. You talk about that 4th and 2, the actual touchdown there by Maddox Madsen. You talk about Tubner's tackle for loss, sack, that sets up a field goal. You talk about JVM's forced field goal miss. Right there defensively, you're talking about 7 points overall, missed field goal, and then a forced field goal instead of a touchdown. So there's 7 points, potential taken off the board that would have won UNLV the game. Maddox Madsen's 4th and 2 touchdown, or 4th and 2 touchdown pass to Louder. There's 7 points. That's the difference maker in the game. The 9 points by Jonah Dalmas. That's the difference maker in the game. So many times when the team rallied together, and again, that's why this is going to go down as one of the most important wins, not just for this season, but in Boise State history, to set up a game that had so many implications, so much meaning attached to it, and you cannot attribute this win to any one person. Maddox Madsen had a huge game, best game of his career, a signature win for him, but it wasn't just on him. Ashton Genty battling through injury, scoring when it mattered most, but it's not just on him. Defense, as we've talked about, but it's not just on them. Special teams, nobody can take individual credit because this was a total team win for Boise State, and special teams were a huge part of that. 3 of 3, long of 44. Another great performance there by Jonah Dalmez, the GOAT of Boise State kicking. James Ferguson Reynolds, hey, he's back. Nuked the football. The Aussie punter is back for Boise State. Great to see him back out there after a few games injured, and he had a difference maker right off the bat. He looked like he'd never missed a beat. 4 punts, 44.5 yard average, long of 49. That long of 49 ended up at the 11 for Boise State, 2 inside the 20 for his flock cancer program, and I put a link to that every one of my game reviews, so please go and donate to that cause. Great cause there by JFR, supporting cancer victims and the fight against cancer. So James Ferguson Reynolds, 4 punts, 44.5 yards, 2 inside the 20. Incredible performance by him again, as usual, and it's great to see him back out there. I know Boise State fans were excited to see him back out for Boise State. And then the kick return coverage and the kick return punt return for Boise State, strong overall. Yeah, they gave a couple key moments, but this is UNLV. This is one of the toughest return games that Boise State has faced all season. And tougher statistically overall than some of the stuff that Oregon has done. Those are just some broken moments, not necessarily reflective of what Oregon's capable of, but what Boise State failed to do. But in this game, Boise State against a special teams that was key. That was key number 1. We'll talk about that here in a second. I was not the only one that said that was key number 1. Everybody, I think, was looking at this game and saying special teams are going to be one of the things that wins you this matchup. Boise State shut down overall the kick return. UNLV, 4 kick returns, 20.7 yard average, long of 25. Punt returns, they had a couple nice moments. They had a long of 17 that got them down to close to inside the 50 there for UNLV. They got them to the 47, so not quite inside the 50, but still on their side. But it was long 17-yard punt return. It was good. But overall, 3 punt returns, 9.7 yard average, long of 17. Boise State really bottling up the punt return on a couple of those as well. And even though they allowed some yardage here and there, long of 17, they also allowed an 11-yard long. I think DeJesus's long was 11. Overall, Boise State really doing a good job of getting down. Loved what I saw out of the kicking coverage, which is, I think, been Boise State's biggest weakness, honestly, overall. Punt return coverage is kind of a fluke, but the kick returning has been the issue, the coverage there for Boise State, and they were able to get down and not allow any big game-changing plays. Completely neutralized, except for maybe one long 17-yard run and one 11-yard run. Other than that, neutralized a special teams unit for UNLV that is very, very good and could have been a difference maker in a game that was won by less than a possession. So overall performance by the special teams unit, solid A. So that leads us finally and lastly to the keys to the game. Special teams, already talked about it. That's an A. Key number 2 was trust Madsen's arm, A+. Boise State trusted his arm when they needed it most. 3rd and long at the goal line, throws it down to Cam Camper to set up that 4th new. 4th down again and short. You'd think Ashton Genty offensive line, you hand it off, right? Well, they're stacking the box. They know it's coming, but you also know that you have a quarterback who you can trust to pick up those yards for you. And how big is that? How huge is that to know that you have a running back that's going to suck up all of the defense's attention, but you also have a quarterback with nerves of steel who can go out in the moments that mean the most and perform at the highest level. Maddox Manson, trusting arm, A+. Really, really strong game overall for Madsen. And then key number 3, don't focus on any one element of Williams. I think it was A+, honestly. I thought the defense did a great combination of bringing the blitz and putting pressure on Williams, stopping the run. They were there to stop the run. Williams is just great and was able to break a bunch of tackles. I mean, he had like 5 or 6 broken tackles that should have been 5 or 6 more sacks for Boise State. So the emphasis was there. But not only were they bringing the blitz to try to stop those legs, they were also respecting their arm and adjusting the coverage appropriately. Sometimes it was the 4-man pressure and they were dropping back into coverage. Sometimes they were bringing the blitz to reduce the time they're in the pocket, but still staying on the coverage unit. This was a great performance overall for Boise State's defense to be able to stop down a quarterback, dual threat quarterback who has been their biggest Achilles heel the last few years. Boise State this season has proven that they can stop the dual threat quarterback. You're no longer going to be able to win against Boise State just because you have a dual threat quarterback. It's going to take more than that, and UNLV did not have more tonight. So A+ performance for Boise State overall in that key for 3 keys for Boise State. So fantastic performance overall in this matchup. This was a game, Bronco Nation. This was a game that I was hoping was going to be a little bit of a blowout. My score prediction was 58-37. That did not happen. But what matters most is that against a very good UNLV team that I think is odds on to go undefeated from here on out, end the season 10-2, probably meet them again. We'll have to see what happens with Colorado State. They got a pretty easy stretch, but probably meet them again in the Mountain West Championship game. This is a quality win for Boise State, and more importantly than that, it's a win where they were able to come together as a complete team through severe adversity and pull out a win on a very, very large stage on Friday night that had a lot of viewership tuning in. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure you let me know your thoughts on this win, on the rest of the season. My game preview will be coming out here in a few days for this next matchup, and it's going to be a great one. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts on the performance for Boise State, on my analysis, on anything else you had on this game. I want to be able to have that discussion about this win. I'm amped up. I want to have some discussions with some Boise State fans. So give me those comments in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and as always, and especially tonight, go Big Blue!